everyone. Happy Wednesday. Back at it. Took some time off post Super Bowl. Energetically, took a lot out of me. It was a lot of fun though. It was a great game. Congrats to the Chiefs. We have an excellent guest for you today. Gentlemen, you're going to want to listen to this. She's an intimacy coach. Her name is Madelyn Moon. She is the author of this awesome book. Hi, Frankie. And I love she's funny. Hi, Jim. She's funny. In fact, on her bio, it is if a tantrika made love to a comedian. She's jumping on. We're going to give you the goods, guys, okay? We're going to talk all things what women want. We're going to talk about her book and all kinds of things. So let's get her on because I see her jumping on. The masculine, feminine. So if you guys at home are interested, you men, on what women want, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm excited to get her on. There she is. Hi.
Hi. Hello. How are you today?
Hello. I'm so good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you for taking some time to chat. I have your book. It's incredible. Yay. And I want to just get right into it because for people jumping on, I have a lot of male followers. I work in the world of sports, primarily NFL. So a lot of men tend to follow me. And when I do these women interviews, I admire the men that stay on and are passionate about the interviews and stories that I do with these women. But today will be some good information for those men because I think we're in a weird time in terms of cultural shifting. And discussing masculine, feminine, gender roles. Everybody's confused. So I'm really excited to get you and your take and kind of deep dive a little bit on what women want. But first and foremost, title of your book, Artist of Love. It's incredible, guys. Check it out. It's fun. It's funny. It's insightful. But you describe it as the modern woman's guidebook. To unleashing her creativity, deepening her relationships, and becoming the leading actor in her own life. I love that. What is a modern woman to you? What does that mean?
What's a modern woman? Well, there's the very realistic aspect to this. It's a woman who is alive today.
Okay. Very.
So, yeah, it's a woman that's alive today and is adjusted to this rapidly changing world of a woman who maybe in the core of her heart is a feminine, tender being who is devoted to love and also having to live in this slightly masculine society, maybe more than slightly masculine society, and keep this delicate balance going between the one in her who is purpose-driven and the one in her who is radiating with love and energy. And how do we hold both of these? And how do we continuously tap into the truth of our heart and that pulse of love as we live out our dharma, as we chase our goals, as we create our beautiful artistry in the world and share our gifts.
I love that. That's a great way to describe it because we're all different. We all have different needs, different wants. But let's get right into relationships because at the end of the day, I think I'm going to do a post on women with other women in terms of friendship. But I think at the end of the day, with any type of relationship, we're always sort of looking for safety. Does this person make me feel safe energetically? So can you tell me in a traditional sense, a heterosexual male-female relationship, what do women want from men?
Oh, honestly, so many things. I mean, I don't know where the majority of women are, but I know for myself, there is a lot that I crave in partnership. And the women that I work with, there is a lot, there's a lot that, because women are a lot and there's a desire for the allotness to be met by a lotness, in different ways, they're different textures. So if the feminine is she who is energy and the masculine is the energy that is more in the realm of consciousness. So it's actually not really an energy. The masculine is consciousness. The feminine is energy. Where the feminine is moving her pulsing pleasure, and she's up and she's down, like just like what we see in nature. There's the tsunami, then there's the waterfall, then there's the forest fire, then there's the morning dew, there's the peaceful river. Like the feminine is all the different forms of energy. And there's a match that a lot of women are craving, which is the opposite side of the spectrum. And we're talking again about men and women. This applies to everybody, but I'm glad that you said, like, we're setting the tone for talking about men and women right now in this moment, because what a lot of women want is a man who's able to be grounded with her, that grounded presence, so that she can be the one to be all the energy and to like be in that pole that's revealing her heart and what she wants and her desires, and talking and talking and talking. Like, we really love to talk. And so if we're looking at polarity, we're looking at opposition. And what a lot of women want, not to say that you can't be the energy as a man. We also love that. There's a time and place for that. And what a lot of women want is the opposite side of what they are. So someone to deeply listen to when she's speaking, but also like not just listen and only I mean, a lot of guys think that all women want are listening. We also want to be like, at least what I've experienced is a lot of women want beautiful guidance. They want to be taken deeper than they can take themselves. So not just a man who's like listening, being a good partner who's just listening, but also someone who knows how to direct her energy, help her guide her energy when she feels overwhelmed or lost or in desiring. Like, there's a leader aspect. Women are craving leaders in their partnership. And the more a woman becomes elevated in her punctuality, in her expression, in her shares, the more she's often desiring a man to match her in that space of like, she's up leveling, and can he still take her deeper even as she does all the spiritual practice and as she grows. So that's one thing, is there's the craving and the desire for a counterpart who knows how to support channeling her energy and take her deeper. That's really what a lot of women are craving.
Yeah. And I think we've shifted, and I speak for myself, with how I viewed relationships. I almost shifted into the masculine. I felt I needed to be everything. I didn't like to receive. I didn't like to ask for help. I was sort of feeling like a burden. In all of my relationships, even with my girlfriends, I like never felt comfortable kind of leaning on people. But now, as we begin to explore, my own shortcomings, I'll say, I've had a better understanding of what it is that I do need in terms of balance. And when you say the word listening, I also think curiosity and making space to be able to just engage with the feminine chaos, if you will. And I did a plant medicine journey not that long ago, and a very wise man I deeply respect mentioned that the men should be the shock absorber in our lives. Maybe we are the shock and the men are the shock absorber, but I found that to be sort of synonymous with what you just said in terms of what you meant by being grounded. For guys that are tuning in, what does that mean to be grounded?
Yeah. So if we're literally thinking about the two sides of the poles as embodied. We're looking at the feminine, we're looking at the masculine. Feminine is literally everything that moves, always changing. So right now, I'm speaking to you. I'm using my hands. I'm the one talking. I'm full of energy. You're listening. You're grounded. You're present. You're in the masculine. It's just like the way polarity works. And it constantly changes. When I'm still and grounded listening to you, you'll be the one that's in the feminine, expressing and sharing. So we can see how this works within our literal bodies of whomever is in the pole of doing that sharing, and whomever is in the pole of being in more devotion to love is in the feminine. The one who is in more devotion to the purpose of the partnership or their own purpose is in the masculine. So this is why sometimes you match up with someone and you start dating and you realize that their messaging, let's say, like, we're women, so we're talking from a woman's perspective. If the man starts messaging a lot more or the man sending pictures of like what they ate for breakfast or like what they're doing later in the day, and sending the emojis, like they're the one full of the energy. And you can feel yourself as a woman start to kind of lean back because you're naturally being polarized into being the one who's receiving the energy, being the shock absorber. So whomever is receiving and is really holding that groundedness and is receiving the energy, the photos, the emojis, they're the one that's more so in the masculine. So I say all that because we have a lot of men out there who are artists. They want to make love in artistic ways. They want to bring flowers. They want to share the videos of the sunrise. They want to like express the truth of their heart. And I love the artist archetype. I love that devotional artistry coming from a man. And if that same man wants to have a woman who's also full of that, he has to know that there's a polarity piece at play where he actually needs to lean back and sharing all the poetry and all the beauty and all the gifties and videos so that she can fill that space. Because the moment he leans back a bit, then she leans in a bit. So when you ask the question of what does that actually look like, it's not so much, it does have to do with doing, like maybe pulling back on your doing a little bit less, but it's also about a yogic practice of actually grounding in and feeling yourself as the pillar for her. The minute a man begins to feel his feet more deeply rooted into the earth and start to feel himself as, let's say, that shock absorber of feeling the energy coming into him, naturally she's going to feel that there's a spaciousness all of a sudden. There's spaciousness for me to lean in more because he's not filling that part. And then before you know it, there's like her sharing more emotion, her feeling like she can share more with him. And then and then the finessing is how does he hold what it is that she shares? How does he witness what it is that she shares? And that's when we go into deeper and deeper practice.
Right, because men can be perhaps reactive or defensive, and then she doesn't feel safe anymore, so then she doesn't put herself out there as much, maybe because she's not feeling that there is a space to truly express herself without maybe judgment, shame, guilt, all of the things energetically that could suppress us. Go ahead, sorry, did I?
No, exactly. And actually what you're describing is two people now in the feminine. And I'm not saying that defensiveness is the feminine, but anytime anyone no longer has sovereignty and agency over their emotions, they're in an extremely feminine state. Just emotion, like defensiveness, that's when you're not practicing actually harnessing the feminine with your own consciousness and groundedness. And then before we know, we have two people that everyone's thrown their masculine out of the window. Everyone's expressing what they feel, maybe their shame, blame, defensiveness. And both parties could really use to sharpen that consciousness, both parties. It's not just the man's job. And since we're talking about what women love, we love it when we can trust that our partner has an autonomy and an agency around their own feelings and emotions, because that means you have a connection with your own feminine. If you're not having a connection with your feminine, the feminine wins out and you lose control of it and you're less in your masculine, which is always so ironic because a lot of times these are the same men that are like, oh, yeah, no one's going to tell me what to do. And that's the least trustable when anyone's in that state, because it actually means they don't have a relationship with their feminine, which means your feminine's going to trigger the fuck out of them.
Trick the fuck out of them?
Trigger.
Oh,
trigger.
Okay.
Yeah. Not trick.
Yeah.
Trigger.
Yeah.
Trigger. We have, like, you know, my own people's own masculine will, if they don't have a connection with their boundaries, other people's boundaries trigger them. And if people don't have a connection with their feelings and the vastness of their feelings, other people's feelings will trigger them. And this is where the resentment begins, and where women don't feel safe to express their emotions. It's actually because men don't have awareness over their own feminine.
How can we help men build that connection to themselves so that they can show up better in relationship, in a traditional male-female dynamic?
Yes. Well, I'm a very big believer that it's actually not our role as women to help men build any kind of bridge to these things other
Mm,
than being the example of it and
you're good.
lovingly, yeah, because then we start mothering. Then we're
Mm,
mothering them. We're helping them learn how to feel feelings. We're holding their hand. My protocol
mhm.
is actually to have a have a like a not a rule, but a it's kind of a rule. I'm just going to use the word rule. I go to women's groups, you go to men's groups. And that's the way it is. Any partnership that I would ever enter, it would be I'm going to my women's groups, you're going to your men's groups. And like, that's just part of an agreement. It's not me mothering me, it's just having an agreement before I'll even step into partnership because I believe deeply in the power of men learning from men how to be men and like also how to respect the feminine and women learning about the feminine with the feminine. So I'm very much not I will never encourage a woman to actually create a game plan on how to help a man
Mm,
understand their own emotions. But with that said, you certainly absolutely can let them in on your own process of your feminine.
mhm,
Here's
mhm,
how my heart feels when you do that.
mhm,
Here's what I would love for you to do instead.
mhm,
Like when this happens,
mhm.
I feel like this, and this is what I want. Sharing your own process is a beautiful way to let him in, but it's not about telling him this is what you need to do in order for you to understand your feelings more. Men can do that with men, I think. But then there's like you want to make sure you find a really awesome men's group who has a really awesome leader who can teach these things and has experience because we all need teachers in these avenues.
Yeah. And I think it helps us feel seen when we're in our own group and we can kind of share, oh, I'm having this issue. And people can reflect back to, I've gone through that too. You feel less alone and then you feel a bit more seen and heard
Mm-hmm.
because you don't think you're the only person on the planet having issues. Fascinating. So it's not the woman's responsibility to, like, let's say, can you give me an example of when you mean game plan? What does a man do that like a woman would tend to game plan for him? Like what would happen in that dynamic? Can you give an example? You've been
Can
giving
you
great examples, so that's why I'm like, just keep it up.
can you say that one other like a different way, same question but different way? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
So you said it's not the woman's responsibility to sort of fix, mother, game plan when a man is having an issue. I'm assuming if he's feeling triggered or all of the things. Can you give me a relationship example where you're saying that that does happen? Because is that the woman slipping into the masculine when she's feeling like, or is it the masculine because you use the term
Yeah,
mothering too?
it's reverse polarity. We'll
Okay.
just call it that. It's mothering. It's kind of the masculine, but it doesn't that doesn't really matter which word we want to call it. It's reverse polarity. That's what it does. Anytime you mother, you are in a sense in the masculine, like you're now emasculating and you're treating your partner like a child. And maybe not even a child, but you're just like looking after him because like he did that thing again. And reverse polarity is the best way that I can think about it through this lens.
And what is an example of that, of mothering
So
or?
yeah, so one example could be perhaps you have a partner who tends to watch a lot of shows or like plays video games, and you know that he has a gift inside to be a writer, like a really great writer, and you're watching him waste away his time and his life by playing video games.
Okay.
And there's a part of you that just wants to like go like turn off the TV and be like, you're gonna go right now. Like this, I'm so sick of you doing this. You're always wasting time, which is completely reasonable. Like you're turned off. You're turned off by
Mm-hmm.
your partner wasting his creative energy. You are allowed to be turned off, and you should lead with your turn off by revealing your turn off. Blah, blah, like express it as a partner by his side rather than taking the remote and tapping your toe or like trying to give him like boundaries of this doesn't I hate that you do this and this isn't this like you can't do this anymore, right? If you're at that state where there's something that your partner's doing that it's really making you turned off, you no longer feel like you can follow his lead.
Mm.
You don't trust him to be able to lead you to deep places. That's where a deep conversation is needed,
Mm.
because this is where a lot of couples get into trouble, because one or the other starts to do something that the other doesn't really like, and they begin to create reoccurring demands about this behavior changing. And I'm not saying that demands are wrong, and how dare you have demands in partnership. And there's some ideas from different teachers that if the feminine does not like what the masculine is doing, she needs to just keep revealing her heart and never have demands, and just like cry and like basically become an infant in order to get her needs met. And I don't agree with that either. I think there's a middle way between the feminine having to sacrifice her needs over and over to get what she needs, and just never ever ask anything in a clear way, that, and then the other side of mothering and having a lot of demands. There's a middle way. There's a middle way of, one, being able to go to your partner saying, this is what I would need in order to keep following you and your lead in our partnership. I would really need to see this shift, because what happens in my heart when I watch you not living your talent and not doing these things that would be good for our family, I feel so much pain. And having this kind of, second stage, according to David Data, it's the second stage conversation where you just put on the table, this is what I would need. This is what's not feeling good to me. And this is how long I can create spaciousness around this changing. There's no mothering there. You're giving your partner an opportunity to be able to meet you or say no. And there's this teacher named Jillian Pothier, and she says that for, going to a masculine being, you want to go with this energy of respect where you say, you have every right to do whatever it is that you want to do, to watch video games, to do da da da. You have every right. You're a man. You have every right. And it does not feel good to me. And I love that frame, because it's neither mothering nor you having to diminish your needs. You're just saying, hey, I respect you. You have every right to live your life exactly the way you want. And I don't feel good in my body. And here's what would feel really good. So that's a second stage way. And then an artistic, you can think of artistic ways. Like, what would it be like if you went in front of the TV and started twerking? What would it be like if you just started like a pillow fight playfully? Or if you wrote a song on your ukulele and you just jumped in front of the TV and you're like, I hate it when you play video games. Like, you can do it in this grounded way, and then you can do it in this playful, artistic, fun way. I think both of them are beautiful ways of expression for sharing your heart's needs in partnership that have nothing to do with mothering, and also have nothing to do with this kind of feminine, what I just feel like is patriarchal, like a feminine patriarchal way where the feminine being just needs to basically be in agony all the time, saying, oh, I hate when you do this, and just never have demands. The middle way.
Thank you for clearly sort of exempling that. I think that makes a lot of sense, that we just learn from the roles we saw with our parents. And
Right.
Unless our parents really were aware of their own feelings, their own connections, you don't witness a healthy way to share a boundary or get your needs met. And you stonewall, shut down, or attack. And those things are never really helpful. And I think this is a great offering for people who are tuning in to really like understand how we overcompensate and we shift in terms of gender roles. And I know I've definitely done that. I've done that in my work. I've done that in my relationships. I feel like the feminine and learning and understanding the feminine has really offered me permission to really be able to comfortably express myself, which was something I deeply struggled with. I didn't even know I had, a lot of feelings because I was always so suppressed. I lost two brothers, one at a fairly young age. And so what I went into was, I don't know if this is the right term, but parentification, which I then felt I needed to suppress me as a young person and went right into caretaking mode of my mom, you know, my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the trauma that I experienced, or the, you know, painful experience of witnessing a mom grieve, I really lost the tools to be able to know what my needs were, and also realize I was suffering too. So I think it's helpful when you describe this, of like, how can men get into connection with themselves, offers a nice permission for men to really be able to do it. Because I think we're at a time, I interviewed a woman, I want to say it was last week, for a Woman Crush Wednesday, and she went out on a date with a guy, and she said the guy opened the door like to the restaurant and immediately closed it and was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like he had offended her by opening the. So like, how do you feel about those types of things? Like for me, I like when a guy opens a car door or a door to a restaurant or pays. I don't feel like like, is that are we just confused right now? Like, can we offer insight on it, or is it just everyone has different preferences? How do you see that?
I definitely think everyone has different preferences. I think everyone's system is different, right? Your system is a accumulation of your background, your family trauma, your ancestry, your desires, your kinks, your fears. Like, that's your system. It built this really individual, unique system, and then I have my system with all that stuff. And then when we're meeting people, where it's two systems meeting to create a completely new system, and it's just surprise. I think that anyone who relates to the feminine pole is here on this earth at this time to learn the art of expression, the art of embodying energy, and the art of receiving. I think that as a primarily feminine being, whether you're man or woman, if you came here and you're like, oh, I'm a feminine being, you came here to embody love. You came here, you were reincarnated to be the embodiment of love, which includes receiving and includes expressing and incarnating as energy, whatever energy it is that's alive for you in this time. So I'm like full and through a feminine being. I have a lot of masculine that's taken meticulous practice and devotion to learn how it works in my life. It's not perfectionism, and really like in the spirit of devotion, but I love being taken care of. And it's interesting because I was raised with a mother who did not work, had everything paid for, stayed at home. She was like, she, you know, did the mothering duties. And I grew up with a lot of judgments around her. You know, immediately after school, I was like, all right, I'm going to have my own business. I'm never going to rely on a man. And I also like deeply craved to also be met by a man, though. So I was having like this internal battle between the one in me who wanted to be taken care of, the one in me who didn't want to be my mom. It was like, like, what does it mean about me if I don't work, or if I have kids, or if I, you know, like I remember one time going to a cabin with my family, and my mom was lying on the couch and she forgot her suitcase in the car. And instead of going to go get the suitcase herself, she was like, Tom, go get my suitcase. And he was inside too. But he went out and got it and then brought it back in. And I remember having so much judgment about that. Like, you go get your suitcase. Don't make him go get your suitcase. And I remember watching my grandma do the same thing. She would never touch a chair. Like, if a chair needed to be moved or anything needed to be picked up and moved, she didn't do it. It was his job. And I just had all these judgments about these women not working and not picking up chairs. And like, I'm going to be the really cool, badass woman who does that. I'm going to pick up chairs. I'm going to move things around. And then I became a bodybuilder. And then I was in a fitness and like, you know, not eating very much and becoming a man. Like I went through this whole period of how much like a man can I become so that I fight back the way I was born or the place I came from. And I went through a whole journey with that many years later now at this point. And one of my deepest like practices right now in this moment is fully owning my desire to be taken care of. Full circle moment of like, actually, I just want to be a wife and have kids and like sounds great what my mom did. I don't want to like get my suitcase. I don't want to move chairs. And it's fun actually to come into this full place of like the lessons were all learned swinging the pendulum to the other side. And I don't know if that's the case for everyone in their journey to go to the extremes to figure out what they really want. But I do think it is for a lot of people. And I do want to just have a shout out to all the men out there that are opening doors and paying for dinners and taking care of women, because in our little boss babe circles, it's so funny that most of us who have businesses and who have created a lot, we're all like, wow, I did all of this and now I want to be in devotion to a family. Mm-hmm. And that actually feels at the end of the day like where so much of my dharma is, to take all this stuff I learned and then channel it and funnel it into creating the safest nervous systems for babies and the safest home and the most beautiful hearth, and how much beauty comes from that. And it's not everyone's journey. Everyone wants something different, but I think that there is a lot for men to learn about. There was something so beautiful about the work that's been done in the last several years for men around becoming more sensitive, becoming new age, like going into a forest and dancing in a drum circle and getting in touch with their feminine side. And the truth is, most feminine hearted women don't want to be ravished by that part of the man. We want you to know that part of yourself. We want you to know how to put on a crystal talisman and dance and feel the truth of your heart as energy. And a lot of women don't want to be ravished by that part of you. We want you to know it, but we don't want to ravish it. We actually want to be ravished by the part of you that has that integrated, but can go back into that warrior, king part of you. That's where the polarity lives. Just like I was explaining, like a lot of men most likely don't want to make love to the boss babe of me. They want me to know my boss babe. They want me to feel my boss babe. But the part of me that most men, and I'm just saying not for all women, but for a lot of women, that they're craving to like take into the bedroom and hold, is the one in them that has that integrated and also knows how to let that go, and to be in a state of receptivity, to be in a state of that devotion. You know, and like the part of me that's the boss babe is penetrating. Okay, it's a penetrating energy. Most men don't want to be penetrating the penetrating energy. They want to be penetrating the energy that's falling back and in receptivity. So there's these stages we go through, and women need to know their masculine, men need to know their feminine, and then in that highest realm we learn how to let go of those poles, come back full circle. But now we're integrated, now we're whole, now we know all these parts of ourselves.
Is all of this you're talking about pretty much described in this awesome book, or where can we learn more, other than of course working with you one-on-one, which I would like for you to talk about? But
well, this Artist of Love is written for women mostly, but I know many men who have read it. And it's not so much about the polarity side of what we're talking about, because I didn't want to write yet again another book about polarity. There are quite a few. What I wanted to write more so about was the artistry of loving. How do we make love artistic? How do we bring in creativity and uniqueness and play and devotion and ceremony? So that's specifically what Artist of Love is about. It's about creating artistry in your love life. How do you turn drama into dharma? How do you turn a triggering moment into your best piece of art that happens in the bedroom? And also about archetypes, because the thing with partnership is that women are craving range in men. Men are craving range in women, the full spectrum. Most women don't, like I was saying, we don't just want the man who can dance in the woods because that's the man who's going to buy us flowers, which is beautiful. We don't only want the man who will buy us flowers. We want the man who will pin our wrists and probably spank us and like know how to do that with confidence.
Yeah.
So it's not one or the other. We want the full spectrum, but a lot of us want it in one man. We want one man who knows how to do both.
Yeah.
And they want the same, they want the range, they want one woman, maybe, I don't know, maybe they want many, but one woman who has the range that can be slutty and devotional.
Mm-hmm.
And so artists of love, part of being an artist is to learn how to meet that range within yourself, how to meet the dark side and the light side, how to be penetrative whenever it's needed, and how to be receptive, how to be devotional and be a goddess, but also be the queen and the oracle. That's an art of in the body, the embodied art. So that's what's in Artist of Love.
I love it. And girl, you're speaking my language. These are all the things that I wish when I was in my 20s, I really devoted some time to actually truly understanding. I think I would be so much more at peace, even at work in a lot of ways, and more confident in how I show up with people. I love people. I love stories. I love, I love listening. But before I let you go really quickly, what is one thing a guy could do that turns you on? Like, what is the thing that impresses you the most? Is it if a man's like, I'm in a men's group, or is it like, what's that he does open the door for you? What would you say your number one turn on would be?
It's a great question. Let me see how I can package this in such a like up there concept. I love when I love foresight. Holy shit, that's what turns me on, when there's foresight, when there's like, when he's creating structure for the partnership of like, hey, tomorrow night I want us to have a sacred practice together, 7 p.m. Like, let's create space for that. Or, hey, next month, I think it would be such a dream if we, sat down and wrote down our agreements together in partnership. Or them feeling that there's something coming up that could cause a little bit of a disconnect, and creating some kind of plan of how we're going to connect, whether that means it's going to be a trip, or it's going to be checking in, like aftercare, just checking in. How's your heart? If there was a big conversation the two of you had, for him to follow up and say, how is your heart after that? Or is something off? Is something in the air? Like there's there's feeling into the future, so that I don't have to. I love that. Yeah. If I'm the one feeling into the future, I'm the one creating that foresight or setting like a future. And we're not talking about plans. I'm not talking about plans of the future. I'm talking about energetic states and being a sorcerer of energy. If something feels off, can you name it? Can I trust him to name when something feels off? Or can I trust him to take us deeper into some place that I'm not taking us? If he can do that.
Love that. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it just sounds like to me an understanding or a deeper connection. I went to an Al-Anon meeting for the first time ever last summer, and I went with a very close friend's husband, who also was in Al-Anon and had some experience, and it was my first time, so he brought me. And I appreciated what he did, because as soon as we parked the car and we were about to get out and go into this, he goes, how are you feeling right now? Just wanted to check in. I was like, what? Guys at home, check in. Just get a, hey, 1 to 10, how you feeling? I appreciate that you just said that, Madelyn, because I think that really does serve the thing that we don't want to do. We're already I have anxiety. I'm already a lot in the future. So to be able to kind of catch those moments or deepen connection, or really check in, for me feels like I'm being cared for. So
yeah, and I'm just going to drop in for all the men listening. It's okay for you to take a moment to envision how that's actually going to deepen your purpose in the world. Because oftentimes men need to know why. Like, why do that? Why would that help me with my mission? Why would that help me with my purpose? How does that get me further in life? And there's nothing wrong with that, actually. If you're a masculine being, that's how you view everything in life, is, will this relationship help me deepen my purpose? Oftentimes, if a relationship does not, a man can't see how it's going to further him and the man he's meant to be, it's not his correct relationship. So we're not just, you know, we're not just asking you to do something that doesn't feel natural to you. And if it currently doesn't feel natural, why would I check in? If, you know, why would I do that if she's already in her feels and she knows herself? Why would I do that? I don't know. Check in with yourself. How do you feel that doing that would actually deepen you as a man? Because it will. When your woman, your oracle feels this reciprocal energy between the two of you, where you're checking in on your heart, she's going to give you more energy, more devotion. She's going to see the man you are even more. She'll call you in whenever you're not being the man you're meant to be, more and more. You're creating the safety so that you're like helping her become an oracle for you. Because you're creating a safe space for her to be able to come to you whenever something feels off or she's craving something. And what a beautiful gift also for your work in the world, because she's the thermometer for how you are in the world. The more you give to her in this way, the more she's going to give back. So connect with that. Connect with that. If you're looking for a reason of why would I check in on her, you're making her a better woman by holding space in that way, and she will help you become a better man, and it's going to deepen your purpose. So just want to offer that as well.
Beautiful, so powerful, so well said. And I love the word that you used, because it ties it back to the word that was important for me, which was safety. I think we're trying to get a deeper understanding of what is safety, and then finding ways to tap into that. And you are incredibly safe, because you're really trying to empower and help so many of us that I think right now, speaking just mostly for myself, but for a lot of friends, just kind of feeling like a lot of people are unsure. We're confused. We don't want to say the wrong thing or step into something that might not make us feel safe. So thank you for all the clarity you offered today. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they learn more about what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm all over Instagram all the time. It's a great place to follow along with my comedy that I do and also my free teachings that I do. I'm currently enrolling for a deep dive program called Innovatrix, and this is about the woman who wants to go deeper, wants to go darker in her expression. It's a 6-month program, and it has 2 in-person immersions with me in Boulder and Sedona, and lots of teachings, calls every other week. It's like a super deep dive in my most advanced program. So there are applications open for that on my website, maddiemoon.com. It's also in my little link tree if anyone wants to click that and see the page and apply. And then Artists of Love, of course, is on Amazon as well as Barnes & Noble online.
Yeah. It's amazing. Thank you. It is such a fun, great, deep dive into a lot of things that I was kind of confused by. You do efficiently, seamlessly really connect the dots for a lot of us. So check out her book, Artists of Love. She is a tantrika made love to a comedian. Madelyn Moon, you're hilarious. Aww. You're so insightful. And thanks for jumping on today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, love. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone who stayed on the live and joined in on the conversation. It's really beautiful to feel that energy. So thank you. You have a wonderful community here.
Thank you. You have a great Wednesday, Madelyn, and I will be talking to you soon.
Yay,
I'll check in with you. Okay.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Bye, guys.